Okay, hello, everyone. Welcome to day 67 of 90. It's hard to believe we're on day 67, but I'm excited because that means we're super close to hacking better. And I see a lot of faces on here that are going there, and I'm excited to come off this 90-day. If nothing else, like I remember the last 90-day run we did with the bigger, like, not just our team, and you come off of that and you kind of are like, holy cow, that was a ton of information. And so the cool thing is you can go back and listen to them again. And so if you've been doing the call to actions, if you did half the call to actions, if you are starting today with us, like, it's still an amazing time to start. Like, you're never too late. You can always pick up here and then go back and listen. If you listen and do all the call to actions and then you start over, you're going to be in a different place then, because you've been doing what you need to be doing, and then you can start over there and do that then. So today, for those of you that don't know me, I don't know if I just already introduced myself or not, but we're going to go for it. My name is Kelly Couch. I'm an independent promoter with the company Prove It. And today we're going to talk about keeping connection simple. And this should feel good, because cold contacting, that feels a little scary. Social media can feel a little scary, but making things simpler should feel good. And that's where we want to really focus a lot. Every time we're having an interaction, we should be focusing on keeping it simpler for ourselves and simpler for the people that we're talking to. So today is going to be kind of about keeping it simple, but also realizing that you guys are enough. I am enough, okay? And when I went to one of my first, maybe it was my second event. So we did the board breaking at the first event. We did the arrow breaks at the second event. And we were champs then. So we were helping hold the arrows. And my fear that I literally wrote on the side, and you guys might go through this at this event, I don't know what they're planning, but you had to write your fear on the side of the arrow. And then when you step through, I have goosebumps. It was like you were breaking through that fear, and then you were seeing what was on the other side of that. And so, as if the universe all lined up, I write on the side of my arrow before I break it, not being enough for my team. And that was a fear of mine. And it always might be, right? It's what pushes you to be better. But literally at that time, I was holding the board for these arrow breakers, and I was excited about that. But my team that was there lined up in my line. And I was like, holy cow, like, what if I cannot help them through this? Like, I've never done this before. What if I'm not enough? And that fear started to creep in right there as we're doing this breakthrough activity. And I was like, no, I am enough. I am enough. And I just kept telling myself that. And the power that came through them by, like, us breaking through that together was incredible. So for gratitude today, I want you guys to type, if you're live, type it in the chat. If you're watching recording, type it in the comments. Type, I am enough. Like, exclamation point, because you are, okay? And for recognition, just super quick, I appreciate you guys. I've seen Stacy and Pam and all of you guys doing it. When I post the recordings in there, in the Rhino squad, and you're interacting there and dropping your takeaways and all of that stuff. And I want to recognize Shiley for sending me her goals the other day, the 5 goals that I walked through for you guys to do. And so what kind of happened from that is she sent her goals, and then it was kind of like, hey, are you open to coaching through these? So we can literally write down steps for you to do on a weekly basis to really make these happen. And so that was kind of a cool thing for us to start doing together. So that was awesome. So yesterday we talked about storytelling and how to attract people with your storytelling. And I think we have to realize, like, if you didn't take away from that this is all about heart, that I want to make sure that was a takeaway from yesterday. Like, you can tell stories, and you can be a good writer, and you can take a good picture, but if you're not bringing your heart into it, people are probably going to feel that. And like I said, start where you're at, that will come, but, like, make sure, like, I always try to, like, go to a place of gratitude, or, like, think through things, like, get to that kind of sentimental place before you make a post, because people want to feel that, right? And I think the first thing to get to leading from the heart is realizing that you are enough, right? These people that you're attracting, they came to you because they've seen you and because you are enough, right? They didn't reach out because they were like, oh, I went to Stacy's Facebook and I don't really think she's, you know, doing this ketone stuff too well, and then reach out and say, hey, Stacy, tell me about ketones, right? That would be a disconnect. They're coming to you because you are enough and you're doing what you need to be doing and you're putting your heart out there. And that's like them saying, yeah, I'm willing to take this journey with you. And so that should feel good. Like that, them reaching out should make you sit back and pause and be like, dang, like I was enough for that person. Like that feels good, right? Like, I don't know why I keep giving myself goosebumps. Maybe it's just cold or maybe I'm sick. But I'm like, when I say these things, like that's what I want you guys to connect to your own place where when you say like, I'm enough, like, dang it, I'm enough, you know, like that feels good, right? Okay. So I think you're the realizing that you're the person they're attracted to is empowering. Okay. And so today, this connection piece, after you've attracted them, this is really like your bonus round. So you've attracted them. Like that's probably the hard part, right? Now we have these so many connection tools for you to connect them to that this should be like, okay, you're like, I don't know, I'm terrible at analogies, but like you're shooting fish in a barrel. That's one, right? And then you're like, okay, you've brought them in. And Nick and I were guilty of this for months. So don't think that I wasn't there or still get there sometimes. But I think then we get them, right? Like they're attracted. They're like, yes, me, I'm putting my hand up. I want ketones. And then we're like, let me tell them every bit of information I've ever known about ketones, right? Like who's been there? Or you're like, I just read the Keto Bible. I'm probably going to send all of chapter 4 to them because that's relevant, right? You're like, what are we actually doing? But we have these connect tools to keep it simple. So this should be where like, when you win a game and it's like bonus round, and you get all excited, right? You've got the tools. If you've attracted them with your heart and with your posts and with your storytelling, you've got the tools once we get to the connect stage, okay? So this is what you get to do after knowing that you're enough. So they reach out and they're like, hey, Mia, I really connected when you posted about this. Like, what is this ketone stuff you're doing? And you're like, I am enough because I attracted that person and they wouldn't have come to me if I wasn't enough. Now I'm going to connect them with these awesome tools it provides, and I'm going to change their life. Imagine if you went into every conversation feeling that way. Like that would be so amazing, right? So connect pieces. Tying in yesterday, your first connect piece is your story. And if you haven't heard me say this before, all Nick and I knew to do was to connect stories in the very beginning. We didn't know enough about ketones. I watched the doctor videos every week, but it was like another language until I started understanding what it was. But I knew that there were people in the community who had stories before us. Like I was still so super early, but I knew there was this whole team that had stories and powerful stories. And so literally I would just connect it. And what it did for us unknowingly was build our belief in the power of these stories. And so every time someone would say, hey, Kelly, I have XYZ issues. Will ketones help? I'm like, you know what? I have no clue, but I know a team down here who probably has one. Connect. That's all we did. And so it started to make us believe in the power of these stories. But what you guys have to really believe in is the power of your own story. Like, do you really believe in it? And if you haven't shared it yet, like if you haven't shared your keto story, if you haven't shared things about yourself, it could be that your belief isn't there yet in your own story. Like a shocking thing, I don't even remember when it was. A bunch of us went out to dinner with Brian James and we were talking about Mike Sipe's story and how he's lost 100 pounds. And he and Missy were sharing that he doesn't share it that often. And if Mike Sipe has lost 100 pounds and he's not, he is now, but like wasn't sharing that because he didn't really believe in the power of that. Like how many of the rest of us are doing that because maybe we think the energy we're feeling isn't a real story, or like the sleep we're getting isn't a real story, but it is. And if you believe in the power of it, like you see someone over here who's lost 150 pounds and you're like, my story doesn't really match that. My story doesn't really hold a candle to that. And I was the same way. I only told Nick's story for the longest time. Like people were probably like, have ketones even helped her? Because I would just talk about Nick's brain injury and how this has helped him focus more and fuel his brain the right way. But what I started to realize is that my story is impactful. Even if I what, you know, anything, you name it, whatever my story is with ketones, it's powerful because it changed my life. And if there's all these people out there that are just like me and that I'm trying to relate to, then my story is very impactful to them, right? So my story is worthy. My mom superpower is ketones, right? Like, you have a superpower in your story. And so when I started to realize that, you know, these things are impactful to people. Like, even though, you know, I had 3 kids in 3.5 years and was desperate to feel better. I was way overweight. I hadn't lost the weight from before. I was miserable with Nick, miserable with my kids, tired, not sleeping. Like, how many other people out there are dying for those benefits? Right? Not just traumatic brain injury patients that I'm trying to tell Nick's story to. That's the majority of people, right? And so if I can realize that that is worthy and that is my superpower, I can help a lot of people. And I don't need to be using someone else's story. I don't have to have lost 250 pounds. Not everybody is even looking for fat loss, right? We've all seen that. So I think that realizing that your story is impactful, like, who wrote down 10 impactful moments or even 3 from yesterday's Zoom? Like, when I sat down to really try to think about those for myself, it was like, man, like, I think those did affect me more than I realized. And maybe, you know, I'm someone that sort of, once I get through something, I kind of compartmentalize it and I try not to go back there too much because it can get emotional, right? But when you actually sit down and realize how those things have changed you and that someone else might be going through, it makes it not about you, but about who you can help. Right. And I think that's huge. And so if you did do that, like, it can get raw, it can get emotional, right? And you can realize, like, looking at your own story and how it's impacted you, and then looking at that story and thinking, wow, I could really change some lives with this. It makes your story, whatever it is, so worthy. Right. And I think it affects your whole vibe, right? Like, I am looking on here at you guys, and I know that there's some of you on here who don't realize your own worth. Like, I know that because I know you guys. And it's a shift that you have to make in your own vibration. Like, I know that because I was you guys. Like, when Nick started all of this, I was like, I will drink ketones and be supportive, but there is no way that I can go out and change lives the way Nick is changing lives. And then when I started to see my own worth and shift my own vibration and affect people, like, it doesn't, you have so much influence, you don't even realize it, even if it's not ketones yet. Like, people are watching what you're doing because you're positive. People do not have that positive influence in life. And so if you can raise your own vibration, like, this is the magnitude of personal development and finding your way and knowing your worth, right? Everything you do is affected by that. And so I think that raising that, like, you can stick to the 5 benefits of ketones if you are bringing that energy and bringing that worth in your story, right? So I think it's all about giving value where you're at. Like, you don't have to be standing in front of a room of 40 people to be impactful, right? Start with 1, start with 1 more, start with 1 more. And then you're going to start to see the ripple effect. Like, I think sometimes we're all guilty of it. We get comparatitis, right? We see someone on stage and we're like, dang, like, they are good. Like, I could never do that, right? You don't need to. You will get there if that's your goal. But right now, what you have to do is start with 1, start with 1 more, start with 1 more, and go and, you know, give value where you're at. And then people are gonna be like, oh, I don't know about this, but you know what I did? I heard her story. And then I heard her story, and you're bringing value to the world that way. And so, but I think you just want to be cautious here. And I know we talk about, you know, they're like social media, particularly, they'll get to ketones eventually, but we want to be cautious. You have to make people want your experience through your story. So when you're sharing your story, you know, when I was sharing Nick's story, I thought it was this big, impactful thing. And I was like, oh, they won't want ketones unless they understand what it did for Nick's brain. But what I probably did was eliminate some people because maybe they thought they didn't need it because they didn't have this crazy injury or they didn't have this crazy thing that they needed it for. Whereas if I could make them want my experience through the story that I'm sharing, then that would make them want ketones. You know, does that make sense? Like, I went too far maybe. And so I think it's easy to move quickly to a sales pitch. Like, we get excited and we think they're getting it, we're vibing. And then it's like, hey, you want to buy ketones? And it's like, crickets, right? Like all the trains stop and they're like, wait, what happened, right? Like I am all about solid closes. And if you guys are feeling like you're getting into the keto conversation and maybe you're not making the close once you're at that conversation, like listen to a book like The Closer's Guide by Grant Cardone. They're going to sound like the craziest things to say to people, but they work. But I think they work after we've gotten to the ketone conversation at the appropriate time. So we want to make sure that we're connecting and people are feeling our experience, and then we can move in and do that, right? Or connect them to someone else's story. You know, I think if your story doesn't connect to that person, that's okay. And so I think realizing that the way to keep it simple here is that, say, you know, I know Pam's story and it's different than mine, okay, or Keith's story or Deb's story, and then it's like I'm trying to explain Deb's story, but instead I could just connect them to Deb. Like that's what we did, and now it's like, oh, I know all this, I'll just tell Deb's story. Well, I've taken the magic out of it. You know, if I connect them to her and they hear her heart and they hear how it's changed her, how much better is that when they come back to me, instead of me like, I'm trying to provide all the facts, I'm trying to provide all the stories, I'm trying to provide every connect tool, instead of just stepping back and sending them resource, story, connection until they're ready. Like it's so much better that way. So the number 2 connect tool, I think, is the, or connect piece, if you will, is the campfire video. I think it's underutilized because we all think it's so simple. Like sometimes I'll send it and I'm like, wonder if like they're going to be like, wow, that was a cartoon, but it works. Like doctors, whoever, everyone that knows this is like, wow, that was a really easy way to explain ketosis, right? So I think this needs to be the expert. We are, and I know we've probably put this on repeat, but and I am guilty of it. Like I will try to talk to people because I know it instead of just sending them a video. Like they'll reach out and say, hey, tell me more about these ketones that you're drinking. And I'll be like, man, if I tell them more, do they mean like they want me to explain it, or like should I send them a campfire? Like that explains it in 4 minutes, and then we can talk more and they have a basic knowledge of it. Then I can see what their response is, and then I can send them a connect tool that matches that. Like how much easier is that than me trying to explain it all? But also how much easier is it to teach that? So you bring on a new customer who then decides to be a promoter, and then they put you in a 3-way, let's say, and you're trying to teach them. You have to be cautious. You're trying to teach duplicatability, right? And so if I'm in there answering every question and they're like, man, I could never do that, right? That's disempowering. You disempower people when you become the expert. But if I say, sure, watch this short video and then we can answer some questions. So they watch a video and then they send questions, and every question they send, I send a prove it compliant connect tool. That's easy. Like you all feel like you can do that because you have the same tools I have, right? Or you can reach out and say, what's a good tool to send to them? So we've all done it, right? But if you just send it right away, everyone can do that. And what about when they respond? Okay, so we've got that down. We're sending the campfire every single time. And then someone writes back, you know, they liked it and, you know, they want to know more. And then you're like, awesome. Which one of these benefits would be a game changer for you? See what I'm doing there? I'm asking questions to try to feel out what they need, what they want. Maybe I go into like, everybody loves fat loss, and they're like, I don't even want fat loss, I just need energy at 3 o'clock. I've kind of missed the mark there, right? But if I can ask questions, or if they say they didn't like it, like we've all been there too, like that was a dumb video, like why did you even send that to me? I hate ketones, whatever it is, right? But you can say like, I would act shocked, like, what? Who doesn't like that video? It's so cute. Or like, it perfectly explains ketosis, but like, then keep asking questions, keep them engaged, okay? So I think the point here is that too many people say too much, myself included. I catch myself doing this all the time. Like, if I said the word beta hydroxybutyrate, I'm like, too far. Like, I'm too far. Like, not only do they not know what ketones are, but what am I actually doing talking about beta hydroxybutyrate? Like, that was just a no, right? And we've all done it. So I think show the video, get a response, and the more people who see the video, the more people you get drinking ketones. It's literally needs to be that simple, and we don't make it that simple. But if you imagine, if you're spending all your time answering person A's questions, how many less people are you getting the campfire video in front of? So if you think of it that way, like if I don't answer person A's questions, if I send them a connect tool, I can spend that same amount of time getting the campfire video in front of 2 other people, right? That's a simple enough number that we can say, okay, that was a smart shift in my time, right? So, like I said, we sign up promoters and we drown them in info, right? And I think the reason that these people joined you is because you kept it simple. But then when you turn and try to like launch them as a new promoter, we don't keep it simple anymore. We're like, okay, well, here's what you need to do. You need to watch this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. But it comes down to 3 things, right? Like, keep it simple for them to connect. Who can you connect to me? Show them their links on the campfire, one of them being, or on their homepage, one of them being the campfire. And then show them some other connect tools that are available, and then say, if you need these as you go, reach out, you'll learn them. You know, Dr. Heather, there's Inspire On, there's different ones. We can always send, we always have a resource to send, so don't overtalk it. Always, okay? So if I bring on a new promoter, I can see who they can get connected to me. I show them the campfire link to send, and then I say there's always a resource to send, so don't overtalk things. Once we get to that point, I'll help you find those resources. How much easier does that feel? And they don't feel like they have to know the whole ketogenic Bible to like sell ketones, right? Perfect. So when they connect people to you, then you have to be conscious of keeping it simple. Just always be thinking, how can I simplify this so that the newest new person knows that they can do this, okay? So when people connect to me, you want to be teaching them to send resources, not answer questions, okay? So I have to be conscious of this too. They'll say, Jenny could connect with you so well. Will you get in there and just talk to her? Sure. So I share my little story. And then instead of like sending the campfire or sending a video, then it's like, well, what's it, you know, why do you want ketones? Oh, for energy. Well, you know what the doctor said last week? I should be talking about that. I should be sending them that resource, okay? We have the Zendesk. We have doctor videos. We have hackers guides. Like that hackers guide or the 10-day video, 10-day experience video that I made and I put in our team group. I think you can send those and save yourself so much time. And you're not becoming the expert, right? You have these resources. The Hacker's Guide answers how much water they need to drink. Are they gonna, what? They need electrolytes. I forget what's even on there, but we send that with every 10-day that we send out. And I think number 3, connection, keeping it simple pieces. Your best connection is face-to-face. And I think this is something that I really had to learn. But a lot of people, you know, you hear people that when people call them, they don't even answer. They FaceTime right away. You know, Nick is very good at this. And I've gotten better at just getting on a Zoom or getting face-to-face. You know, let's go play at the park. Let's do this because, you know, for your warm market, you want to let them know that, you know, I think you have to let them know why you're reaching out. And I feel like social media is kind of the opposite from when you're face to face. Like if you're on social media, you know, we talked about making those connections. It can take time. If you're in your warm market, you know, you can get caught up for 10 hours talking to your old friend Sally about her dog and her dog's issues, right? So if we want to avoid that, and if you want to talk about that, by all means, but, you know, if you want to sort of cut to the chase and see if she wants ketones, I think let's say, hey, I'm reaching out because I found this awesome new technology that I'm really passionate about. Like, why don't we meet up and talk about it? Let's get in front of their faces, right? And I think that way, if you're local, meeting up is the way to go. Like, what attracted you to wanting to try keto, right? Someone reaches out, hey, tell me about these ketones. Hey, yeah, let's meet up. What attracted you to wanting to try ketones? Then you're face-to-face, you're finding their reason for being here, and then you can move right forward, and then you can catch up later after they're feeling good and talking about keto, and you're not going to get stuck in the negativity, right? Like, let's get everybody positive first, right? And I think we can all I want to give a perfect example. Like, someone reached out to me that's at our homeschool co-op, and she said, hey, I need an accountability coach for keto. I tried the keto diet. I'm on this roller coaster. I'm up and down. I asked my mom to get me personal coaching for my birthday, but I was hoping maybe you could match me up with a coach. And so, right, this I'm not worthy mindset kicks in first sometimes. And I'm like, man, I don't really coach people on the diet all day. I coach them on how to drink ketones. So who can I connect them with? Like, what am I doing? Like, this is what I do. This is what I do for a living. And so what I need to coach her to do is drink ketones twice a day, and then I can coach her on the diet. But my gut was like, maybe I'm not enough. Maybe I don't know the diet enough. Like, yes, I do. We all do. This is what we do, right? So I think let's get face-to-face. Let's have coffee, have KLPs, get on Zooms. Like, these KLPs are a perfect way to try product, feel the energy. They're putting in time to come in. Let's find out their questions beforehand so that we can literally present them the answer at the KLP, right? If I know that John needs this community and he's never tried ketones. I can literally make sure that community surrounds him with love. I can have samples there, and we can literally present exactly what their pain points are when we meet them face to face. So here's what I want you to repeat today. I'm 25 minutes, still over time. Okay, so I want you to repeat, my story matters. I cut my notes in half, by the way. I was really trying today. My story matters. I want you to repeat, the campfire video is the expert, not me. And I want you to repeat, I am enough. And then your call to action. Yesterday we talked about your story. Today I want you to go into your story and add heart to it. Okay, so go, maybe you put, when I started before ketones, I had no energy and my brain was all over the place. Now I have so much energy. Since ketones, I have fat loss and energy. What I'm most excited about is sharing this with others, right? Which is true. That's your story. But I want you to go in and add heart to it. Add what's in here to that. In the past, I had no energy to play with my kids. It felt like my kids were living their life without a mom that could really go out and run with them. You feel the difference, right? Because we're adding our heart, we're adding ourselves to that. So I want you to go in and do that and bring the you that's worthy of all the things, okay? When you say, I'm worthy, I'm enough, and then you go in to change that story, bring that person. And then your second call to action, I want you to stand in the mirror. I want you to tell yourself you're enough. And then I want you to tell yourself your story. And then if you have a dry erase marker, you write, I am enough all over that mirror and put a big heart around it. And so every day when you walk in there, you're like, I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. And I promise you will show up differently. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for showing up and being patient with my inability to finish these in 20 minutes. And I promise I will keep cutting these down. By day 90, I'm going to be slaying this 20 minutes. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.